Well, what triggered the birth of the platform was that around 2007, a thought came into my mind. I had just done a little bit of research and study on how nations that became great, there was a body and a form of knowledge that was imbibed in terms of to the general public, which means there was a form of education that the general public had that brought about and unleashed the potential that was within them. So what we saw in 2007 was that the nation had moved, over the last decade back then, from a military style of government that people had been for decades into what we call the democratic setup. And in the democratic setup, the real political goal of it was to have what we call the free market, where there will be an exchange of goods, ideas, and services with the global community. So we felt that, we needed to get across to the general public and make accessible to them a particular form of knowledge that will bring about public enlightenment and allow people to be able to confront the challenges of the changes that they were facing, and at the same time to be able to utilize the opportunities that came their way. And so we saw that change that happened within the landscape of the nation. We felt it was necessary. We picked 1st of May because that represented the Labor Day, and what we wanted to do was to communicate to the workforce of Nigeria a particular type of skill that knowledge will produce to unleash from within the human capital in people based on a particular definite system of thought. And so we picked that, and in the past, people used to have parades and, march past and all of that. But then we said we wanted to use this to, get that knowledge across. Then we also came to the 1st of October, where we looked at it and said we could also contribute some form of knowledge to celebrate the independence of Nigeria. Well, a lot of people tell us that the platform has been a great blessing. It has impacted them. A lot of people watch and participate in the platform. But if I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to be transparent, I don't think that personally now that the potential that is within the platform has been totally unleashed. In fact, I would say between 20 to 25% of the capacity of the idea is what we are seeing today. So even though people say that they have been impacted by the platform, I think that there is a lot of work that we still have to do to get to the place where we fulfill the promise and the purpose of what was birthed in 2007. What inspires the very things of platform event is that we look at the general thing that we want to communicate in the platform, which means that the goal of the platform is to get knowledge across to people. And then what happens is that we look into our environment during our strategy sessions to find out what really is the current trend of thought based on what are the changes that are going on in the landscape of the country. So we take the principle and the purpose that doesn't change, and then we try to integrate that, which means to communicate that to people based on the context of what is going on at that particular point in time. Understanding that people can only comprehend things in the light of their own personal experience. If you speak to people outside what they are experiencing, then communication really hasn't occurred. So we look at what we want to get across, we look at the experience of people at that particular point in time, and then we communicate that. Even the style of music we use in promoting the program has to be in the context of what is going on within the nation at that particular point in time. Well, for me as an individual, I came out of a very academic city back then, and I came out of an academic family. So as an individual, when I was going to come into pastor a church, I remember that one thing my mother asked me was that, will you still be able to make use of your mind and your intellect in what you are doing? That was our only fear. And so as an individual, I found the platform as a place, an outlet where certain things that were imbibed into me growing up, I've been able to express it in the context of what I am still doing today as a person. And so that's the impact that's had upon me as an individual and pastor of Covenant Christian Center. Well, I'll just say one, and that's how we took platform from just being something we did at TBS and put it, made it a media event and then put it out on television and all of that. I had heard from somebody, that you should never let a crisis go to waste. It was a principle that I had just learned. And so I think this was in 2010, I think, we're going to use TBS for the platform. And then we understood that there was going to be 50 years of Nigeria and the government was going to make use of the TBS, and it blew just in 1 second, all the ideas and the thoughts that we had. But we told ourselves that we must not let this crisis go to waste, that there has to be a message and a purpose in this crisis. And then we found out that really the platform was to evolve from just being something that happened on TBS. Even if 25,000 people were attending, it was just those 25,000 people that were there. And we're able to convert it into a media event where people now hear on radio, on television, and it spread out throughout the nation, and it became something global. The message of the platform essentially is the same. But like I said previously, we have had to integrate that message, into what was going on in the nation at a particular point in time. But there is something we are saying that remains the same. Well, in the nearest future, we are moving the platform to another level. One thing that has happened over the last 5 years is that people from speakers from abroad, speakers from home, a lot of people around keep telling me that the platform, they feel that a lot of energy is generated on these 2 days that we do 1st of May, 1st of October, and that we need to take it to another level. But I have never really been comfortable with some of the ideas that I heard. I felt that as a church that there was a limit to what we could do and what we should do in society without crossing the boundaries of what a church really is all about. But recently, we now were able to discover that the next level that we wanted to go into was to make this a broad-based educational platform. And so platform will be branching out from just 2 events on the 1st of May and 1st of October. And there'll be various arms and people are going to see this.
We're going to have the platform tech, which will deal with technology. We're going to have the platform green, which will deal with agriculture and renewable energy knowledge share. The platform creative, and that will deal with arts, music, and audiovisual industry. We'll also have the platform interactive and the platform sport.
And these will be specific meetings that will be targeted at a particular demographic within the nation to meet a specific need. And it will go through the platform community. I think right now we should have about 50,000 people who are members of the platform community. And you could join the community and we'll be able to send emails to you and give you an update of what's going on, because those conferences, those meetings, those seminars will be smaller, but it's still an educational platform to communicate knowledge to people. The driving force is to fill a knowledge gap, which means that we want to pass information across to people in a way that is accessible. That's why we make it free, in a way that is relevant. And so the purpose is to fill a knowledge gap.